All right. Good morning, everybody. A beautiful Saturday here in Minnesota. I wish sometimes I was down where this guy lives. Tanner, down in Florida. But we are having Florida weather here. It has been 90s. It has been humid. It has been crazy here in Minnesota. This is the Ask a Painter live show. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over almost 3 decades of experience in the trades now as a craftsperson and a business owner to answer questions. And again, this is a group of people. I don't have all the answers, but the group that's associated with Ask a Painter does. And it is one of the coolest communities that you can find on the internet. So today, a special guest, Tanner Mullen. We're going to go deep dive into Tanner. But before we do that, I will say thank you to the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association. I just got back from my Northeast tour, 4 states, 5 days. That was basically coordinated, created, made possible by the PCA. The PCA is a great organization. It is the lighthouse. It is the dog whistle for people like me, like Tanner. It speaks to a very particular segment of the trades, and it is young, progressive, aggressive thought leaders who are wandering into the trades. They see the possibilities out there and they're looking around and they're not seeing all the great examples of success and wealth and happiness that you think should be there. Turns out they're all at the PCA. And that's where Tanner and I were talking just before this, where at some point, the nuts and bolts of a painting business are not solved, but you understand them and you can function within them. Then in order to progress, not only build yourself as a human being, but build your business, you need to be around other people who have gone through what you've done, who are thinking more critically than you, who use first principles reasoning, all that other stuff. I found those people there. So paying your membership dues for the PCA will not make you world class. Getting in and speaking with all the people there will. So my recommendation for you, if you like guys like Tanner, if you like guys like me, you're going to find a lot more of us there at the PCA. So link in the notes if you're interested. Otherwise, we're going to jump in to Tanner Mullen. So quickly, Tanner Mullen, Florida. Yes.
Florida, Central Florida, sunny, painting year round. It's awesome.
God, very jealous. So you own a painting business, Premium Painting, and you have a company called Drip Jobs. You are also our dear leader of one of the coolest Facebook painter groups on the internet. That we're gonna get into all those things.
Yes.
So, Tanner, where would you like to start the conversation with today?
Oh man, well, I mean, let me give a little context of my painting business. We're on Ask a Painter, so that's why I wore my painting hat today, because if anyone's seen me on social media, I'm usually pushing out all sorts of things that I'm involved in, and I really just want to start off with my painting business, because that's where my passion comes from. I mean, I wouldn't even be on this show if I really didn't truly care about the painting industry. And I believe that I see things a little bit differently in the painting industry and have a similar approach to maybe just adjusting the stigma that painters have. It kind of upset me a little bit when I went in to someone's house, and we had briefly discussed about this, but it was just not being looked at as a professional. And I was like, I come from industries where I was viewed as a professional. I was in banking, I was in I was in sales, and there was this thing when people came in, I was respected. And I come into the painting business with the same attitude, the same energy, and I get looked at like I'm going to take advantage of somebody, and that hurt. And I was like, you know what, I'm not the only one that shares in this pain here, and I want to change that. So as I'm building my painting business, I've only been in business for this, I'm going into my 5th year. I realized that I've met so many great friends that have experienced the same thing. And they're like, why are we not being treated as we should? We're going to do a good job. We're going to treat our customer right. We have everything in place to run a legitimate business, and we're still being looked down on, and we're not getting paid top dollar for services that we put systems in place. We hire great people. We pay them really well, but the customer doesn't seem to care about that. They want the lowest price. And I wanted to help with that, because to me, it goes all the way down the line to the people they hire. So that's my passion. The painting business is where that all started.
Yeah, we align very closely on that. My mission, personally, professionally, and even with the PCA, is professionalizing a very unprofessionalized trade. So I'm glad there's people like you out there that we're all throwing a hand in trying to make this happen.
Absolutely. So my origin story, with premium painting is essentially I grew up in the trade. My father took me along for the ride as I took electric plates off the walls and taped the baseboards. So it was really cool. But one thing that I love, Nick, man, this was great, was just that customer interaction, man. Like, you're in someone's house. I was 12 at the time. The wife of the wife is making lunch, and the husband's like hanging out in there, and they're like, hey, do you want a sandwich? And they're making me lunch, and we're painting for them. And like, I don't know, there was just something special about that time. And also, not only that, just spending time with my dad. Fast forward 8 to 10 years. I'm 20, 22, 23. We had a family matter occur, and I wanted to kind of help my dad. So I'm like, you know what, let me stop everything I'm doing, and we're going to start a painting business together. And that really kind of sparked it. I was going to sell the jobs, and he was going to paint the jobs, the typical father-son business story. And as most turn out, it never really works to the idea that we want it to work, and we're on great terms and everything's good. But I kind of took it and like ran with it. And now we're at a position where, from here, it's become my passion, and it's something that I absolutely love. It's something that I want to be able to give to my kids, and again, stay in for a long time. So I've been in it for a while. I'm a third generation. Actually, his father had a painting business. So it's in my blood, man, as many as it is for many of us. That's why I put out a post not too long ago. I said, you never just jump in the trade, man. There's some way you got in the trade, and that's cool. You don't just stumble in it.
It's funny when I go around and talk to other contractors, I usually play, that little parlor trick thing where it's like, okay, half the room is going to raise their hand. The other room is going to raise their hand when we say this, but there's only two origin stories in painting. Either I did it in college or my dad did it. And basically that's it. There's some stragglers who on their own found it and did it, but really that's the origin stories.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So when it comes to the painting business, again, I've transitioned, from really just coming into sales, marketing and all that. And I actually learned a valuable lesson when I first started, was that I couldn't just do hey, I'm going to go sell a job and I'm going to find someone to go do it. And I'm sure you can agree that model, you of all people would say that, hello, you actually need to learn this trade, because remember, my only experience was when I was 12, prepping. So I had to get my hands dirty, and I did that for about 6 to 7 months of actually painting with my crews every day. Yep. And we only took exterior jobs. I did not take interior jobs because the team that I surrounded myself with were high school kids I went to high school with, and no one had painting experience. But what I learned on YouTube and from guys like you on Instagram, and not really knowing the trade, I did not feel confident enough for them to actually go in and cut a straight line on the ceiling. So for me, we only took exterior painting for 6 to 8 months. And that's how I really formed the knowledge that I have, is actually just getting in there and getting the brush wet, man.
That's nice. Leadership lessons, business lessons. What, in the last 5 years of you owning your business, what's been something that surprised you, a big takeaway, something like that from the owner's perspective?
Honestly, for me, the demand, but not just the demand of a painting contractor, but really the demand for a really good experience. And it's not so much that, we can just go out there and give it. The experience has to be showcased, and what I realized is the better I did at telling my story to my customers and really spending time conveying trust and putting systems in place to build trust along the way, from the initial request all the way until I knock on their door and hand them a business card before I say anything, just so they have something to look at, Nick, that just allows them to feel, wow. I think there's some cases where some people do an estimate with a contractor and say, hey, do you have a business card? And he's like, oh, you know what? I didn't bring one with me. That to me, I know you're laughing because it's true, man. You probably had somebody do some work for you we've all had it happen. So for me, that one thing that I'm just blown away by is the fact that there is a market out there in our industry that wants a phenomenal experience. But the big problem is that we are not conveying enough that our experience is phenomenal. And literally my entire work-life focus, whether it be my painting business, which is, I try to do this every day, or the software. It's like, I want to try to convey that you will get an extraordinary experience before you get the experience. And last point here, again, I sold cars. When someone's buying a car, I didn't have to do much work, Nick, because what do? They sit in the car. They can smell the beautiful car. They can actually hit the gas and drive that car. It goes fast. So yeah, the guy in the back who's talking, me trying to sell the car, actually it's better if I shut up, because the car is going to sell itself. Okay. What's the difference here though? When we go and do a painting estimate, they don't get to sit in the car. They don't know what that experience is going to be like until they actually see us show up that day. So it would be very wise for me to do my very, very best to say, hey, this is how your process is going to go. Okay. I'm going to actually have Louis here, and he's our expert. He's been with us for 5 years, and he's going to knock on the door the first day, and he's going to shake your hand and explain to you everything that's going to happen. Just that little bit right there. So for me, that's the passion, man. It's really identifying that there is a market out there that will pay top dollar, but you have to earn their trust. And by doing that, you have to pretty much give them the experience before they get it, themselves.
Yeah. And that is, so data plus feelings. The data is, after so many years of doing this, I realized that early on, I focused on the molecular science of oil primer when I talked to my clients, and that's fine. Like, obviously we're painters. We need to focus on paint, but I think people focus on the paint, not that they shouldn't, but they completely forgo the client experience and the gaining of the trust side. They think, well, listen, if I'm a good enough painter, that's all that needs to happen here. And it's not all that needs to happen there. Legitimately, when we go in, I do 800 estimates a year. And very rarely do people ask me what kind of paint I use. And the discussion is more like, when you paint my walls, as long as it's not builder's flat, I honestly don't care. And the through line through all that stuff is, I basically, when estimator Andy came on and we kind of had to make some maxims and some through lines through this stuff, we have to always assume positive intent from our clients, but also assume that that adversarial reaction that you mentioned at the start, it's because all these clients just do not want to be taken advantage of. That's how I feel. And if you can earn that trust, and so yes, you can do that by describing the paint and stuff, but that's a very small portion of it. They want to know about the kids learning from home, them officing from home, the pets, the furniture, the cleanup, the color and things like. So it's really interesting. Like it's almost sad how little we talk about paint in our business, because that's a done thing. We've figured that out. It's all about how can we maximize that client trust, right?
Wow. The experience, right? And I think that, we've got to choose. And when I first started, I actually would pull up to the job, and my major focus, Nick, would be, what is the price going to be? And I would actually spend 95% of my time just sitting in the truck or sitting in the car trying to figure out the price. And I would do such a good job, and I'd be like, all right, here's your price. I'd be so excited. Like, all right, we got it. I came up with it. I'm going to make a good profit on this thing. And that would be it. They say, okay, great. I'll call you back. Or, and finally, like, what? So for me, like, I have what I like to call the 595 rule. That's just something that I'm passionate about. It's like, let's spend 5% of the time working up our price and 95% of our time building a relationship. And if I focus on that, for me, I mean, we're gonna win the game. But it comes down to, how can I come up with a 5% pricing strategy, right? That's the key. Everyone gets so deep into, like, I don't want to lose money and all this and that and everything else. And it's like, same thing you do, marginal pricing, understanding that everything comes down to a margin. And if you can accurately identify what your labor is and what your material is, and then simply come up with a margin, then the price is easy. It's easy. It's all marginal. And then from there, it's just about building the relationship. And one more point on what you discussed about really just building that trust is that, first of all, you got to know who you're talking to. And there's one question I think everyone should ask. The question is this: have you ever hired a painting contractor before? And it's so crazy to me that anyone can leave an estimate and not ask this question. Who are you being compared to? Did you have a crazy experience? Did the guy spill paint all over your driveway? Was he one guy with no insurance? Did you take him to court? Is that why you're coming at me this way? Or did you have an excellent experience? And do I need to match or exceed that standard? So for me, those are just some things that I like to focus on whenever I'm doing an estimate. It's just, helps me enter that world of communicating about trust.
All right, everybody. So if you have questions for Tanner about any of this stuff, painting, business, otherwise, please list them in the comments. I'm going to read off a few here right now. We got a great bunch of people, names that we know and love. The Tony Josephs, the Jim Dorfs, the Corey Leisters watching this morning. And thank you guys for all watching. So Corey, so true. My husband does our estimates because no one can tell our story better. He says, I'm an easy product to sell. Yeah, it's a great story. And especially when you actually do have a great story like Corey, absolutely. That makes it all easier.
Corey has a great story. I've heard Corey's story. It's awesome.
You want to talk about aggressive, progressive minds. That's the shining example of that in our entire industry. So Paul Dibdahl, a guy I know and love, master craftsman. A huge revelation for me was watching each one of you guys plus Steve Burnett, DYB, putting it in my brain that the customer experience is the most important thing, not how well you apply the paint and not how great your paint application is.
Yeah,
and,
huge fan.
Honestly, and honestly, for guys like me and Paul who are like craft martyrs, like we go deep, we have bled for this craft. Sometimes it's a tough thing to do, to put your tail between your legs, and it says, honestly, it doesn't matter sometimes how good you are. Yeah. If you leave a mess in the person's house, doesn't mean a thing. So, okay. So I want to talk about drip jobs. Drip jobs is something that I am very interested in that I don't see you talk that much about. So tell me about it.
So drip jobs was actually born out of necessity, as all good inventions are. I think, I've gotten to the point in my business where I understand that I'm most valuable really in overseeing all aspects of the business and not focusing on, little tiny things that, although need to be done, they weren't getting done. For me, I understood, again, just having a sales background and understanding the psychology behind decision making really came down to, I need to follow up with people, but I don't just need to follow up. I need to find a way to build value consistently whenever I send a proposal. If I send someone a $20,000 to $25,000 proposal, how do I know if they've actually even opened that proposal? That was worrisome to me. I'd build out the proposal and I didn't even know if they opened it. And then I'd call them the next day and they didn't answer. And I'd call them 3 days later and they didn't answer. And you know what my initial thought was, Nick? They don't want to hire me. And I was completely wrong. So I set out to create a solution that allowed a contractor who didn't have an office admin, who didn't have an office, who didn't really need one, to be able to have an office-like system, essentially a 24/7 office admin that is taking care of the customers for them. And that's what Drip Jobs is. Essentially, it's just an automated platform that communicates with customers every step of the way. We have 7 deal stages in every interaction that we deal with. We have new leads. So these are people that come into our world. We have pending estimates, people that we've spoken to that aren't quite ready for an estimate. We have people that request estimates from us, people that are on the schedule to get an estimate, proposals that we have yet to send. We have proposals that we've sent, and then we have proposals that have been rejected. And there are people that fall into each one of those categories. Nick, you're doing 800 estimates in a year. Okay. So for you to accurately be able to verbatim who you gave an estimate to in the last month without a system that's categorizing these people accordingly in a Kanban view, which I know that you have something similar, but that Kanban view is exactly what we want, is those deal stages. So for me, I thought, okay, well, we have something that does that and that's visually appealing, but what if we tied in automatic follow-ups to those specific individuals in those specific stages? So somebody that comes in as a request, I want to follow up that says, hey, thank you so much for submitting a request to Premium Painting. We'll get back to you shortly. And then when we book the request, it sends a follow-up that says, hey, your request has been booked for tomorrow at 8:30 at this location. And then when we send a proposal through the system, Nick, it follows up with them for however long we want. And we can have value-added follow-ups. So if I send someone a proposal, they're going to go into my proposal sent category, and it's going to follow up with them for as long as I want. And it can have whatever content I want in those follow-ups. And here's an example. If you do cabinet refinishing, those follow-ups don't have to be, hey, are you going to hire us? It could be, hey, here's an example of the last project we did. And you can actually see a video of the process here. And that can go out 2 days after you send the proposal. So I think what it does really is it continues to go back to our core of our conversation, which is build trust. That's all it's doing, is building trust, but it's doing it automatically. We all want to follow up with our customers, but we all don't have the time, and we all don't really want to follow up with our customers. So this thing does it automatically.
Well, I like that too. And it's what you say is more true than anybody knows, which is getting a job sometimes has to do with the velocity in which you react to a client's wants, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the colors on your proposal, and sometimes even the price. So if you gave me a choice of when a client somehow raises their hand or signals that they want an estimate, to me, I would take getting to them within an hour versus this perfectly laid out 17-page thing that's airtight. It's a thing that shows up a week later. And that's it. Sometimes what this whole trust is built from in a day of an electronic age where my business doesn't even have a phone number. They interact with a website and then email. That can be really impersonal, and it's hard to build trust.
Right.
But the velocity, it's just like when you buy something on Amazon, you buy it 2 seconds later, there's a confirmation email. You feel like the circle has been completed, that there's a connection, and that you feel like, okay, this is a trustworthy system. So that following up, feeling like there's a human behind it, which there actually is, but sometimes painting contractors are bad at that, right? We don't answer our phone for 3 days, and then we take a week to get our estimate back. Even if that's all in person, that doesn't build trust. So I love that more than anything else.
Yeah.
The velocity of these communications is so important.
Well, we look at Amazon and we look at how we buy things normally. And I think the problem that we have as contractors is we are buying for the customer. And we have to understand that the customer is a marketplace. They interact with Amazon. They interact with Apple. They interact with Verizon, these big companies. And you have to look at how the big companies are really interacting with their customers, which they are our customers too. So you look at that and it's like the expectation is rapid response. The expectation is online booking. The expectation is you're going to get a link to leave a review. Don't just tell me to leave you a review. You need to send me a link so I can leave you a review, or you're not going to get a review. I'm not going to do a Google search for your company and figure out how to find you. No. If you want the results of the big companies, which is customer satisfaction, then you have to model their behavior. And with Drip Jobs, what we're doing is we're aligning ourselves with the big guys. We're making it to where the expectation of the marketplace is immediate gratification. Like you said, when I buy something on Amazon, if I don't get an email that says that I bought it, I'm going to go back and check what happened, So unfortunately, as customers, we're spoiled, but again, that's not for us to decide if it's good or bad. That is what the marketplace does. So as businesses, we've got to align ourselves with that. And that was the focus.
When you get done with a Google Meets virtual meeting, instantly a screen pops up with stars on it where you can rank them. That's a great system. And that's what real businesses do. And so the crazy thrust of all this stuff, and I feel like such a dum-dum sometimes when I'm out there like master's classes or even Ask a Painter, because this isn't novel stuff that you and I talk about. This isn't something that we've created that nobody else knows about. This is what real businesses do out there. Best Buy, Target, Amazon, Google. These are just things that businesses do that they have as an institutional piece of knowledge that they couldn't see a way to do business without. And I think it's kind of new to the trades. And that's why I'm glad there's guys like you out there, Tanner, who are out there preaching a good word. So
thank you. Yeah. I just,
let's see. Troy Frederick, can anybody use Drip Jobs?
So, yeah, I mean, ultimately Drip Jobs, the passion behind it is this. You shouldn't need to really use Drip Jobs. Like the only thing you should really be doing is monitoring Drip Jobs. That's the whole purpose behind it, and building out your proposals. Okay. So Drip Jobs is an automation system. My focus and my passion is to bring automation to contractors. I've been using it in my business. We just launched it 4 weeks ago. Set it and forget it. I mean, everyone's being taken care of. They move automatically based off the actions they take. Let me give you an example. I kind of explained a little bit about the deal stages and how everyone that we interact with falls in what we call like a bucket or a deal stage. Well, if that customer gets a follow-up with a link for them to book, well, once they book, the system's smart enough to move them to the category that they're now in. And then from there, if we send them a proposal, the system's smart enough to move them to the proposal sent category, trigger the drip messages. And then when they actually put down a deposit on our proposal, it's going to move them to the category of project pending schedule. And then when we schedule the job, it's going to move them to the scheduled job category and send them a follow-up with the date that we scheduled their job. So can anyone use drip jobs? Ultimately,
awesome.
yes. That was the focus. I had somebody tell me that their father was an immigrant and they feel as though with him having no knowledge of speaking English that he would be able to use it. And that makes me so happy because I don't want anyone to be limited. This thing is supposed to work for you. You don't need a crazy college degree. And I tried to make it as simple as possible.
Okay, so are you open to a unrelated question from somebody watching, Tanner Mullen?
Let's do it. Yes, sir.
Okay, this is one of my favorite sort of like debates / arguments / conversations in the trades. Holly asks, how far ahead is it normal to book that makes a client comfortable? So behind that basically is, how far out should you be booking, right? And how say you, Tanner Mullen?
I'll say me. Holly, thanks for the question. And again, appreciate everyone watching this. First thing is, it depends on where you are in the country, okay? Because if you're up north, and here you go, Nick, I mean, we're going to have two different answers, 100%. If you're up north, hey, yes. Nick can tell people that he's a year out, and they'll be like, oh, okay, that's great. That's the normal up there because they understand the dynamics of weather if it's an exterior paint job. But if you're down here, down south, where you can paint year round, to be telling people that you're 3 to 4 or 5 months out, really is unacceptable because ultimately that's your job as a business owner to be building production systems to be able to turn around those jobs. The expectation is different here. It all has to do with the market. If everyone in Nick's area is booked out that long, then the general consensus of the marketplace up there is going to be like, okay, that's acceptable. But if I tell people I'm 6 months out down here, there's other guys that aren't as busy that do similar work than we do that they will be able to accommodate those customers. So it actually hurts me negatively. So it really just depends on where you are in the country. Nick, would you agree? Is that?
Yeah, lots of thoughts. And again, as business owners and thinkers, there's like problem and solution. The problem is, well, how far out should you be booked? Because having nothing on the books is scary, right? Having 2 years of stuff on the books feels great as a business owner. That's job security. But the problem is, if you look at it from a client's point of view, it's very problematic. I say I like to get out of the problem solution loop and take 3 levels above and say, how can we create a system where this isn't even an issue? In my business, the goal that I laid out for this year is up here when everybody does book out. If you call a house painter in Minnesota in May, you will not get on their books in the year. You need to get on their books in February. Goal for my production and sales staff this year is to have somewhere between a 1 and 3 week lead time so that right now in June, somebody can call, get an estimate next week, and we can start within 2 weeks. Wow. That is an insane competitive advantage here in Minnesota. So just like you mentioned, in an industry where painters stop calling you right about now, we're here. We're ready for you.
I love it.
We're really good at this, just like drip jobs. We're high velocity. We'll get to you. So you can think of this whole thing as like, if you want to run the razor's edge of 1 to 3 weeks of work, boy, that's a huge competitive advantage right now. So I love that sort of thing. I do know that if we book up more than about 6 to 8 weeks, we have vastly underpriced our work. Based on our market. So I would say, yes, point of pride, right? Hey, I'm booked up into 2022. Say you just gave away a lot of work, feels like.
So for me, like from a sales perspective on this, Nick, is like, I always like to ask, how soon, so I have 3 questions I ask every customer whenever I go to an estimate. Every time I have my salesperson do that and I get the feedback of those answers, and it helps me utilize these strategies. Like you said, competitive advantage. I call it a value proposition in some cases. So for me, I look at it like this. First, I'm asking, what's the story? Okay, why am I here? First of all, I want to know, is the HOA on your back? Or is this something you've been postponing for 10 years? Some people say, hey, my wife, has been, wanting colors, and I've been confused about colors. So I can come in there and say, hey, we'll actually offer you a free color consultation. So I alleviate that there. But the second question is, have you chosen colors, which usually opens up that door. But the third question is, how soon do you want the project done? So Holly, you may have people that say, we're actually going on vacation. I really don't care when you get it done. Just get me a quote. Okay, but then you have people that say, well, we want this done sooner than later. And I'd say, why? Well, we're actually getting ready to move into the house. So for me, it's like, I actually am a schedule maniac when it comes to trying to capitalize on opportunity and being able to utilize a value proposition of, hey, we can get to you in a week and a half, and immediately throw myself light years ahead of competition, especially if it's a 5-day full interior paint. Okay. Ultimately, there's not going to be many contractors around here that can take on a full ceiling, walls, trim, door, interior paint on a brand new home within a week and a half. But if I know the motivation of each one of my customers, I can maneuver their jobs, and I will call them and say, hey, listen, I was wondering if I can reschedule for you for a week and a half further. Oh, no problem, Tanner. We're not in a rush. Perfect. Then I can slide that job right in at a way higher margin because I did them a favor of getting them done within a week and a half. So for me, like, majority of my time in my business is maneuvering my schedule, identifying motivation, and really capitalizing on opportunity. So hope that helps.
Yeah. And this whole industry needs to take an effect, which all the other trades do, which is supply and demand, which is if it's May in Minnesota and you want your deck stained before a grad party the first week of June, that's a very high demand project. And there's not a lot of supply of people to do it. And you can modulate your pricing. Obviously we don't want to gouge people, but you know, the house that I'm in right now, I had a framer back out a couple weeks before we needed this place framed, and the estimates that I got, because in Minnesota we have a very short season, were double what the original estimate was, and I had to take somebody. And you know what? People think like, well, hey, if I demand price my jobs, people are going to think they're getting gouged or something like that. I was grateful for these guys who framed this house, and I recommend them, even though I paid twice because they were good. I'm being attacked by a fly, Tanner Mullen. What the heck is going on here? Yes, but I like these guys a lot. I recommend them, and you know what? They came through, they solved a problem for me. And you know what? That's the going rate. There were no other choices out there. I did not have another choice.
No choice.
Yeah,
needed to
supply and demand pricing.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go. I want to talk about your Facebook group. Now,
the group.
Most people probably interact or know you probably from that thing. So I think it's just called painting contractors, right?
That's it. Keeping it simple, painting contractors. That's what we are. That's what we do.
Keeping it simple. And my impression was that, you know, again, I'm a member of like 80 of these things around the internet, right? And some of them are very robust, like Corey Leister's, which is one of the most world-class groups of people, very well moderated.
I looked at that yesterday, and I think she's like way past 50,000. That's crazy. and
it's you know, it's not always just the size of these things, it's the robustness of these of the knowledge and the moderation that keeps these things great. So my impression was that, hey, all of a sudden, like another paint group showed up. There's this guy named Tanner. I didn't really know him before. And you know, because I'm a member of 80 of these, you're like, all right, well, we'll see what the culture of this one is. And I felt like a couple months ago, it was 6 people on there. And then now all of a sudden it's blown up into this monstrous thing. And you confirmed legitimately it has just popped up, Tanner Mullen.
Just popped up. I mean, you know, and again, it's not about the amount of people. It's really about, oh, thanks, Holly. She likes the group. So it's not about the amount of people. And what I really wanted to do is just create a community where it's a safe community. It's a high level thinking community. It's something that will allow us to really just collaborate and contribute. I want to tell you a quick story of my first exterior estimate that I did. And I actually got a call from a family friend someone I kind of knew that wanted the outside of their house painted. And it was my first job doing an exterior. And I remember just my mindset is go get it. You know, don't think about it, just go. And I did not know, first of all, how to paint the exterior of a house because, you know, again, I knew I could look it up, but the real hiccup was, what do I charge to do this, or even how to? I was just getting started. And I remember going on YouTube and, you know, just asking a couple networks that I had. I was not in any groups or anything. And I just can't help but think, you know, back then, if I had an awesome group that I could easily just, hey, take some pictures and just get some feedback of what that price would have been, you know, for me, you know, that would have been so valuable, you know. And I figured out a price and I came up with it, but just some feedback of like, oh, hey, Tanner, actually, you know, factor in a little extra for patching that major crack there, or, you know, make sure that they trim the bushes before you get there, Tanner. That's something I didn't think about, you know. I mean, you know, at a very basic level. So in my group that we have, you know, in a lot of other groups, you get shamed for asking pricing. I encourage it because I have a personal tie to this. And I also want people to understand that, you know, everyone's at a different level in their business. And just because they take pictures of a house and they want a price doesn't mean they don't know how to price jobs. Anyone can shoot out a price. an extra opinion, or maybe something that someone sees in that photo. Hey, did you factor in extra for a boom lift? I think you should do a boom lift because trying to throw 40-foot ladders up there could be kind of dangerous, so ultimately, for me, and Troy's a heavy hitter in the group. Thanks, Troy, for all that you do in the group. He's been top 5 since we started of just giving out his information, man. Very appreciative. But for me, it's like, this is a community of people that want to help each other grow. And in business, we're so used to competition. And I don't think that there's competition in painting, Nick, because there's so much demand. We are one of the only trades that can service both the inside and the outside of the house for equal or greater value. You can't put a roof inside of a house and you can't put flooring outside of a house. You can, but you guys get what I'm saying. Ultimately we have double the market share. So for me, it's like, let's work together and stop trying to think that you have to compete. And that's what this is about. That's my mission for the group, is to create a great resource. So that's the story.
To me, a good sign of a group is inclusivity, just like you said, not exclusivity. And the knowledge that gets exchanged in these groups is amazing. And I don't think people understand the power of these groups. You can use a group like that as a Wikipedia. You can search these groups, and anything you probably ever wanted to know is all right there. So I don't think people use these like they should. I mean, yes, it's a great thing. They can get questions answered, but they don't understand. 14 years ago, when I started my own business, none of this existed. And I wish I would have had a resource like your group back then, because yes, you can paint. Yes, you can run a business, but we're all these lone wolves trying to solve all the same problems that everybody else is trying to solve all on our own. And right now, this industry is legitimately changing. There are people openly and honestly sharing this stuff, because we know in the residential repaint market, with the current economic status right now, there is no competition out there. Everybody is production constrained, and we're all trying to figure this out. And just thank you for the resource that group is. I love it.
I'm happy to be the admin. Gives me great pride. So wait, I have to answer the question. A lot of people wonder why I ask so many questions in the group. Okay, that is the big thing. And I wanted to hit that here because, again, remember, and this is to anyone that's in the groups, like, dude, what is this guy doing? First of all, obviously we want everyone to engage and talk and communicate. Obviously that's part of it. Oh, that's awesome, Erica. Happy to hear that. So the second part of this is, though, like, people come in from all stages of the painting business, right? So you have experienced veterans, you have individuals like me, who I would consider myself like level 2. I've only been in business for 5 years. In terms of craftsmanship, I have a lot to learn. Business, still have some to learn. So for me, I'm like level 2. And then you have level 1. These are people that are maybe working by themselves and want to grow a team, or haven't hit a certain level financially, or don't know what it's like to manage a crew, or and then you have level 0, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but these are the curious people that are going to be the next generation of our trade, Nick. And I think that if we can create questions that have them forward think scenarios that are going to come up as they start their business, then I really believe that we can truly create, just a better stigma in our trade. And I think that the more we do that, and the higher the quality of the answers, and it's important that, the people who read the answers of the questions offer their response there and say, hey, you know what? I did something differently. So whoever's coming into the trade can read that and really hear examples from all angles. Hey, what do you do when someone shows up late? Hey, what do you do when you spill paint on a carpet? Instead of looking like a deer in the headlights, they're going to remember that post, and they're going to say, okay, well, all these guys actually just said, you know what? We're going to actually buy you a new carpet. And that might give them the okay to do so, instead of trying to, clean it up without the customer seeing it. And then, so for me, like, I know this on such a deep level that we're serving so many different people, Nick. So those questions really help the mission.
And what I like too is that, yes, we are painters, and you do dabble in a little bit of painting questions, but what you're doing is you're almost pulling these level 0, level 1 people brand new to business ownership in the trades out of their what kind of paint, what price is a gallon of paint, and making them think about their business a little more holistically, which is legitimately what we're going to do to change this industry. The stats that I always share is 80% of our industry is 1 to 1.5 people. A paint business owner, Tanner, which is the grossest thing on earth, paint business owners average $43,000 of take home pay a year. We pay most of our employees more than that, and that is a sad thing. And most paint businesses go out of business somewhere between 1 and 3 years. So it's not the painting that's a problem most of the time. Most painters can paint. It's the business side that forces these people to have a whole bunch of stress on their family, to not focus on the client service and not create something that could eventually be an asset that they could sell. I mean, it's a great thing that at the end of this, my father's business wasn't worth more than a bunch of used ladders for a lifetime worth of work. And there's something more, there's something bigger and better out there. You know what I mean?
I believe it. And I think, there's this little saying that I adopted early on is when you're big as a company, you want to act small. And when you're small as a company, you want to act big. And I started my business with the mentality that I'm creating a franchise, whether I'm actually building a franchise or I'm not. And when you think of a franchise, Nick, you think of turnkey. And if you don't know what that term means, essentially it's like, if I sold you my business, can I just give you a key and give you some instructions and give you some tools and tips, and you can actually step into my role and achieve same or greater results? So for me, every aspect of my business has something that is there's a reason why we do it. And I'm talking to the guy who actually creates these systems. So you know what I'm talking about. But for the audience, it's like something as simple. And you might think, well, where do I even start? Have someone in the morning that's not you go pick up the paint. Start there. Okay. That's one thing. Have the crew leader of the job go pick up the paint. And that's a system right there. So when you sell your company, quote unquote, hey, just so you know, the crew leader of the job actually goes and picks up the paint in the morning. Okay, well, who orders the paint? Well, instead of picking up the phone and calling, we just order all of our paint on the Sherwin-Williams app. Okay, and we do that the night before in case anyone changes their mind on colors. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, every little thing that you do can actually be divvied out. And we call that really delegation. And what delegation creates is duplication. And duplication is essentially you taking yourself and duplicating yourself within your business. So, when you're small, act big. When you're big, act small. Delegate and duplicate, and you can ultimately end up in a position where you could sell your company and have an asset for your family when that time comes.
This is the proverbial turkey truck test. If you get hit by the turkey truck, what happens? And in most paint businesses, 100% of everything stops immediately and nothing goes on. And that is perfect. That is a great litmus test for what these businesses are and could be. Proof positive is that I shared something on the internet that is proof positive of my goal and your goal, which is professionalization, which is I went on the Northeast tour. My business didn't need me for a week. I checked in every day as a good business owner would, but we set a revenue record for generation, production, not just sales, 1 week revenue production in the 14-year history of my company. The week I was gone. So it's proof. Now, again, listen, obviously, even my business, we have a sales team, we have a production team, we have a shop manager, we have all sorts of crews, subcontractors, other things. Still, even to this day, turkey truck test. If I got hit by the turkey truck, I am technically the admin or the coordinator of my company. Right. The friction point is people go to my website and they ask for an estimate. I'm the person that it goes through, and I either give it to myself or my estimator. That would stop eventually. But if I had an admin, theoretically, this may go on for a long time. So you can find yourself doing that turkey truck test to figure out the first thing that would stop is the first thing, like you said, that should be offloaded to somebody else or created a system around it. So that's a fun thought experiment to do.
No, it really is. I mean, it's just the ability, can you be absent? And you going away for a week, that's something, especially the volume that you do, result of the systems. And I believe that the systems, are a result of the processes that you have in place that become systems, and the processes are a result of the product that you're creating in your business. And then the product is a result of the people. And really, if you boil it all the way down, it's because you have great people, Nick. That's what it comes down to. You and I both know that.
We all know that. This is a super humanistic thing. And people do not, like, when you look at the people who win or create something where it's not a stress-filled, hellish business, it's because they win with people. And all it is the clients, the people you surround yourself with. If you spend all the time focusing on the people, the painting is kind of an afterthought. Like, not that we don't put time and effort and intentionality into it, but if you gave me the choice of focusing on the next new coding system or focusing on my people, I would spend time with my people every single day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, we should mention, Tanner, too, that, I always like to set the stage for these conversations about creating a business or creating a job. And legitimately, most of the people in our industry create a job for themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand the risk and reward profile. So when you talk about the level 0, the people who have just got in, the level 1s, they're pricing their work like it's a fairly good paying job, but they're not taking into account all the risks that goes with this, all the insurance, all the marketing, all the free estimates we do. People don't understand that our clients could decide just to not pay us. That is a huge risk, right? So it's one of those things where I think people create okay jobs for themselves, but legitimately, I don't think they're taking into account all the risks that comes with this. And if they price themselves appropriately, they probably wouldn't be booked out 2 years then too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, the mindset has to shift about the way that people see money, especially when they start the business. And there could be some level 2 still in this mentality. And I call it the employee mindset. And I think we've been trained as employees. Most of us have started as employees. That's usually the way it goes. But we've got to transition the way we think about money. And when you made money as an employee, you'd get a paycheck. And what you would do is you'd spend and you'd save the rest. Okay, so essentially with those two ideals, that doesn't leave much for growth because you didn't really have to. Yeah. You're an employee, there was nothing to grow. But when you own a business, you're still getting money. But if you don't adjust that mindset, then you're going to find yourself in a toilet bowl because you're going to be paycheck to paycheck is what you were when you were an employee. Now you're job to job. So ultimately, the mindset has to shift. And really that mindset is very simple. It's get money, invest, spend, and save. You're just adding that invest piece first. And what invest is putting money back into the business. So when you hear that term, I'm putting money back into the business, really what you're doing is you're investing in marketing, you're investing in hiring, and you're investing in growth. And if you're not actively doing that, there's no way you can get ahead. There's 0% chance.
That's it. And a lot of the times, lest we think about our equipment a little too much, I think when people do think about investing, they think about a truck or a thing, and that's fine. Those are the things that are easy to do, not that hard to come across, and are just the clinical things that we need to run a business. But I know almost no painting companies in the United States that have an R&D budget, a research and development. And research, fine, but development is huge. People, if you gave me $5,000 to invest in either a piece of equipment or training for my people, I would invest all of that in my people every single time. That is the sort of, we can always just get equipment, right? That's not a big deal. Investing in your people is a huge thing, Tanner. Agreed. You always say that 100%. Too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not just the training and the development is so good, but acquiring the people too, and being comfortable spending money to get people into your business. That's another thing I'm passionate about is, I hear, we all heard the hiring thing. There's no good help, but in the same way, if somebody told me, Nick, that there were no good jobs, I would say that's not that there's no good jobs, is that the good jobs can't find you. You haven't done a well enough job of putting yourself in a position to get the good jobs. And in the same way, people would say that there's no good help. I would say, Nick, ultimately the good help just can't find you. And I like to think, well, Nick, where does the good help come from? Chances are they're not sitting on the couch right now. The good help is working for somebody else. And the good help is currently either doing that or they're moving into town. So how do we capture that emotion of I need a new job? And then when we do it, how are we attracting them to jump ship? So I totally align with the development aspect. And I think that spending money on getting your name out there in the same way that we market for hiring is just as beneficial.
328 million people in the US. There's 162 million people in the workforce. 95% of them have a job right now, if you follow the unemployment stuff. When somebody says there's no good people out there, there has never been more humans on the face of the planet. And how many do you need for your business? Couple, right?
Couple.
And the silliest thing, my most popular master's class is a 2-part series on modern apprenticeship, where I basically use data to prove that we are not in a labor crisis. Actually, it might be the easiest time ever to attract really good people to your companies, and professionalized companies have no problem finding as many people that they need. The silliest, laugh in the face sort of piece of data is that 162 million people in the workforce, universally, you gather a group of painters, universally, no good people, can't find good people.
Can't find good
We
people.
are overlooking 47% of the entire workforce that is women. And these are the same people that are just like, hey, and that's not even a consideration. Well, we're just not even going to look at that. And so that's like you taking your market and saying 47% of the houses, I'm not even going to go over to that side of town. I'm just going to stay here. It's like, hey, dum-dum, let's get going here. It's so obvious on its face.
Tremendously. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. I also have this theory.
I like that sort of data.
Oh man, that stuff is what brings it on. That just opened my eyes to very, very awesome. But I have this theory is like, okay, so if we know that the best workers are coming from somewhere else, how do we create a better opportunity to actually make it to where they feel safe and it's actually an achievement to get hired by us? Like for me, Nick, think about it like this. You know, if you were out in the workforce and you got a new job, is your business the cause for celebration? I mean, are we going out to eat because you got hired by Premium Painting or Nick Slavik's Restoration Co? I mean, is that the celebration, or is it like, okay, well, this is just another step until I get to where I ultimately want to be? And what I like to do is try to create that feeling in my applicants, dude. Ultimately, I had someone yesterday that was a referral of an employee. Okay, so he knew about us, and the general consensus is, okay, we know this guy, so he can start Monday, right? No, absolutely not. He's going to go through the same exact process of form fill out, phone interview. I don't care who he is, in-person interview. And when I did the in-person interview, he's going to do a background check. He's going to go through all of the processes that we have in place. And when I was doing the interview, he admitted to me, he's like, man, you know, the process that you have really shows how well your business runs. And I could have easily said, yeah, man, because he said, oh, I said, well, when can you start? And he said, oh, I can start Monday. And if I wasn't tied to my system, because I know that a great system produces great results, I would have said, actually, you know what, that's convenient for me. Why don't you do that? Come Monday and we'll see how you do. And what would that have done to him? Well, you know, all right, well, that wasn't much of a barrier to entry, so there won't be much of a barrier to leave. So what I want to do is create something that somebody earns, and they hold that in a higher regard than if they just got to walk in the door.
Oh, I love that, Tanner. And sticking to a proven process is hard sometimes, especially for guys like us, because sometimes it's like, especially when you are production constrained, it's go, go, go. The demand's high. Let's just do this, you know. And it's sticking to that process, man. That takes a very mature business leader to do that.
Yeah.
So one of the funnest games that I play with my leadership team is called Magic Wand Thought Experiment, which is like when we're having trouble, like I love to operate on give me a list of problems and I'll break myself to fix them. But sometimes the problems aren't obvious, right? So it's sometimes hard to put your finger on what the actual problem is because there's a surface reaction and then there's something a little bit deeper. So we play the Magic Wand test. When I asked for a point of friction from last week from somebody, and I say, okay, we'll wave the magic wand, change one thing about last week to make happier people, more money, better paint jobs. And whatever they say is normally like a very good thing that needs to be addressed. For you, Tanner Mullen, when you look at that awesome Facebook group you have, wave the magic wand and change one thing about the business owners in that group to make their lives better, the clients better. What would you do?
I think that I would help them understand what being a business owner truly is. I think there's a point in time when we start owning a business, Nick, that it's exciting to be free. It's exciting to make more money. And then we hit this plateau. Ultimately, you own a business, you make the money. What are you doing with it? And I feel like people need to understand they have the impact to change lives, to help families, and to create an environment where people can go to work for good leaders that actually care about their growth. For me, I get more excited when someone tells me that they want to buy a house than I do making $1 million in my painting business, because I know that I'm able to be a blessing to somebody in my business. So for me, really, I want to push that. Ultimately, you own a business, you're going to make money, you're going to be free, but are you really taking care of your team in a way that helps them achieve their goals financially and personally, and creating that system that ultimately, that puts food on their family's table? So your ability to educate your team, educate yourself to sell better, to create a stronger process, to create a stronger system, because ultimately people are going to grow through that system and achieve things that they may not have without you starting a business, is invaluable. So for me, it's just changing really the perspective of the business owners to know that what an opportunity to help people and to create a system that allows them to achieve their goals.
So what I heard is that focus on the people.
Focus on the people. That's really what it is. The people, that's the secret to business, is how can I serve my team? You know, and if I can do that, if I can ask them the question that if you ask my employees, what is the question that Tanner asks you the most? How can I help you? How can I help make your job easier? Mm-hmm. What can Tanner do to make sure that you have what you need, the resources that you need to be successful? And if I make that my focus, you know, I'll always be taken care of.
Oh, I love that, man.
Yeah.
God, what a great conversation, Tanner.
Yeah,
what do we need to, what else do we need to know? Was there something I didn't ask you that I should have? Is there anything else you want to convey to our good people out there?
Honestly, man, this was such a great conversation. I just want to keep it going. I think that the more that people get comfortable, I think the group came out of nowhere, but I really feel like the better the conversations that happen in there, the more everyone's going to grow. So for those watching, join the Painting Contractors group, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions out of fear that you'll be bashed or you'll be, whatever will happen. I don't know, but we police it really well. Like if there's something that's derogatory or if anyone's being just disrespectful, gone out, no questions. You're off the island. Survivor Series, man, you're gone. So, bring it. Anyone that feels as though they're going to be disrespectful, but I don't want that to take away from somebody asking a question to grow their business. So that's what I got. Just make sure that feel comfortable asking questions. Post your pictures of the houses you want to help get pricing on. Don't be shy to do that because we encourage it.
I love that. So Tanner, thank you for taking the time on a Saturday morning.
My pleasure.
This is family time for both of us. So it doesn't go unnoticed. And thank you for the group. I really do appreciate that. You're a good resource out there for people. And again, it's like eventually guys like you and I will dog whistle and find each other, right? Like we'll eventually do this. And I love it, man. So thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for everybody for watching. Awesome questions today. Last thing I'll mention is some master's classes I have coming up. I have a couple days down in Georgia coming up in about 3 weeks. There's a link in the show notes if you want to go down there and pass some knowledge just like this. We gather rooms full of people just like this, and I come down with data and feelings, and we just openly discuss. This is way less of a lecture than it is an interactive sort of thing where we share data. It's a wonderful thing. I'll also be in San Rafael, California, a couple weeks after that. So if you guys are in Georgia or if you are in Southern California, please look that up. I would love to see you guys there. We're taking this road show on because the world is opening up. But until it fully opens up and we can go back to our big get-togethers, I'm taking the show on the road and I'm connecting with people because I miss it. And it's super selfish because I get a lot out of it, but I also try to give back a little bit too. So all right. So anybody who wants information on that, I see Troy asking, you can get a hold of me or you can follow the link in the show notes here and it'll have all the particulars for that stuff. So Tanner, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. I love talking to you.
Hey, man, we'll do it again soon.
Awesome. Well, all right, everybody, have a good day. Have a good weekend and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Nick.